Many Americans believe that to leave the United States to stay abroad legally, to obtain permanent residency, you must invest, buy property, open a company, and wait 5, 7, even 10 years under temporary visas, renewed year after year, living in a state of being allowed to stay, but never truly belonging. But that is not the whole truth. In 2026, there are still countries that do not sell residency for money. They do not ask you to bring hundreds of thousands of dollars. They do not force you into long-term contracts, and they do not require you to gamble your life savings on a foreign piece of land just to remain legally. Instead, these countries ask a different question, and that is harder and far more honest. How do you live? How much uncertainty can you tolerate in daily life? Can you slow down, or do you need everything to be controlled on schedule by the book without deviation? Because in these places, residency is not a reward for the wealthy. It is a choice offered to those who fit. Not everyone with money stays, and not everyone who stays does so because they have money. So the real question is not whether you have enough money, but whether you are compatible. Compatible with a slower pace, compatible with imperfect systems, compatible with letting go of control in exchange for flexibility and space. In this video, we will walk through 5 different countries. No two are the same. Each opens its door in a different way, and each asks you to pay a different price, not with money, but with the way you live your life every day. 5. Paraguay, silence and patience. Paraguay does not appear on glossy rankings. It has no aggressive campaigns aimed at foreigners, no slogans promising a retirement paradise, and it does not try to be charming to keep you there. Yet, within this quietness, Paraguay offers something increasingly rare into 6. You can apply for permanent residency relatively soon after entering the country without buying real estate, without making investments, and without locking your money into complicated programs. The core requirement is simply to prove that you can support yourself through a basic stable income or a modest bank deposit, along with straightforward administrative paperwork that comes without long-term obligations. The process is not fast. Paraguay does not value speed. Everything moves slowly, sometimes so slowly it feels suspended. But it is clear, consistent, and rarely changes midstream. Here, you do not chase the law. The law waits for you. For many people exhausted by constantly shifting visa rules elsewhere, this feeling is unfamiliar, yet quietly reassuring. What Paraguay truly sells is not convenience and not modern comfort. It sells prolonged silence, a form of living space that many people only understand after it has disappeared from their lives. In Paraguay, no one pushes you to do more. No one asks what you have achieved. No one measures you by income title or how fast you are moving forward. Days pass slowly without guilt for not maximizing them. For many Americans, this becomes a cultural shock deeper than any language barrier. Daily life in Paraguay reflects this spirit. The cost of living is low enough that you are not counting every bill. Food is simple, housing is modest, and basic needs are not inflated by consumer pressure. Cities do not demand constant spending in order to exist. And most importantly, there is no pre-built expat ecosystem, no packed meetup calendars, no hand-holding networks. If you want community, you must build it yourself. If you want relationships, you must wait for them. In Paraguay, everything arrives slowly, including people. This slowness is exactly why many leave early. Those accustomed to constant stimulation often grow restless. Those who need to feel busy, surrounded by noise and activity, quickly find Paraguay too empty. It is also not a place for people who fear silence, who fear unplanned afternoons, who fear sitting too long with their own thoughts. Here, nothing shields you from that experience. But if you are someone looking to disappear from the noise, not to escape life, but to hear it again, Paraguay opens its door in a rare way. It does not promise a dazzling or effortless life. It simply offers a space large enough and quiet enough for you to decide who you will become when no one is pushing you to be anything else. Georgia. Freedom without roots. Georgia opens its doors in a very different way. Quietly, with few questions, and with almost no pressure. From the moment you arrive, you can remain legally for a long period of time without running from one extension to the next, without living in a constant state of temporary permission. The pathway to long-term or permanent residency is relatively clear, does not require large investments, does not force property purchases, and is supported by a government that is unusually open to foreigners. Georgia does not treat you as a burden, nor as a revenue source to extract from. It simply allows you to stay. What Georgia offers first and foremost is freedom. Freedom to move. Freedom to experiment. Freedom to live without explaining yourself. Here you are not scrutinized for why you came, not pressured to integrate immediately, and not required to prove some grand contribution. Everything operates with a level of flexibility that often surprises newcomers. There is little bureaucracy, little oversight, and for those who have just stepped out of a heavy chapter of life, the experience can feel like finally taking off a tight jacket worn for too long. But that same freedom comes with a clear price. Georgia does not anchor you. It does not create the feeling that you are being held by the place. The foreign community arrives quickly and leaves just as quickly. Cafes that are full of English speakers today may feel entirely different a few months later. Relationships form easily and dissolve just as gently. There is little that compels you to stay once the urge to move on appears. In Georgia, you can remain for a very long time, but rarely feel that the country is asking you to. This is where many people begin to feel unsettled after a while. There are no legal obstacles. Financial pressure is relatively low. Yet there is also no strong pull that makes you say, "This is where I will stay." Georgia does not build an identity for you. It does not assign you a role. It simply gives you space. And for some, that space is a gift. For others, it becomes an unnamed emptiness. The most important insight about Georgia is this. Georgia allows you to stay easily, but it does not give you a reason to stay long-term. It suits those who are in transition, people who have left one life behind but are not yet ready to settle into another. This is a place to test, to observe, to slow down without committing. Not a place to lock in your future, but a place to open it. If you are looking for a temporary landing ground to breathe, to think, to reshape yourself without being asked, when will you settle? Georgia remains one of the few places that still allows that freedom. But if you are seeking a country that will hold you with depth, with obligation, with a lasting sense of belonging, Georgia will likely smile and let you continue on your way. 3. Albania, Europe, still open but without promises. Albania enters this story not as the familiar European dream. There is no polished imagery, no glossy marketing, and no attempt to convince you that this is a perfect place to settle. Yet within that simplicity, Albania offers something rare. Americans can stay long-term with relative ease, following a clear, though unglamorous path toward long-term residency. There is no requirement to invest, no obligation to buy property, and no expectation that you bring significant economic benefit. The system is not complex, not layered with intermediaries, and does not force you to chase constantly changing programs. So, what is Albania really? It is Europe before the doors fully closed, a country that clearly belongs to the continent in history, architecture, and rhythm of life, yet still holds space. Space in its systems, in its development, and in the way society functions. Albania is still rebuilding itself after decades of isolation, which means everything here is simple enough to enter, but not complete enough to fully carry you. Daily life reflects this reality. The cost of living is low, especially by European standards. You can live comfortably without heavy financial pressure. The pace of life is slow, sometimes slow enough that newcomers feel time stretching. No one pushes you to rush. No one pressures you to optimize every hour. But in exchange, there are very few hand-holding services. You must learn things yourself, handle matters yourself, adapt to systems that are still imperfect. This is where Albania draws a clear line. It is not suitable for people who need seamless systems, who expect everything to run smoothly, who rely on structures already built for them. It is also not for those who fear living inside a society still in progress, where procedures can be uneven, services inconsistent, and the answer not yet still appears. Albania asks for patience and for an acceptance that not every problem comes with an immediate solution. But if you are someone who wants to step into Europe while the door remains open, who wants a place that allows you to stand there without demanding too much, Albania offers a very real opportunity. It does not promise a future that is prepared for you. It does not guarantee ease. What it gives you instead is a place to stand enough to be present enough to live, and enough to decide what you will build next. Albania does not invite you to sit down and rest. It simply places the ground beneath your feet and says, if you wish to stay, you will have to pull your own chair in. 2. Ecuador, stability and acceptance. Ecuador enters this story with a very different posture. It does not invite you with absolute freedom, nor does it attract through speed or extreme flexibility. Ecuador opens its door through stability in a way that feels familiar, especially to those who have already lived through many chapters of life and no longer wish to experiment endlessly. Residency here is based on stable income. There is no requirement to invest, no obligation to purchase property. The process is clear, practical, and well-tested by decades of international retirees who came before you. You know what documents are required, where to submit them, and roughly how long the process takes. There are few surprises. What Ecuador does well are the fundamentals, precisely the things people begin to value once they grow tired of uncertainty. The cost of living is low, allowing you to live comfortably without constant calculation. Food is fresh, housing is reasonable, and daily needs are not inflated by consumer pressure. Healthcare is accessible, both public and private, with reasonable costs and familiar procedures. You are not forced to improvise every time a medical issue arises, and daily life has a rhythm not so slow that it feels stagnant and not so fast that it becomes exhausting. That rhythm is evident in everyday routines. Mornings begin early and end early. Towns and cities are large enough to provide services, yet small enough to avoid pulling you into constant motion. Life repeats itself in predictable patterns. For many people, this is the first time in years they no longer ask, what unexpected problem will tomorrow bring? Ecuador does not make life more exciting. It makes life easier to live. But that same stability is also its greatest trade-off. Ecuador is not flexible if you want to keep many doors open. It is not a place to live 6 months on 6 months off. It is not designed to be a legal backup plan. The system assumes that you are arriving to stay, and if you are still searching for maximum freedom, still wanting the option to pivot at any moment, Ecuador may begin to feel restrictive sooner than expected. Ecuador is better suited for those who are ready to stop moving. Not to stop living, but to stop drifting. To stop constantly proving themselves. To stop asking what's next. In Ecuador, no one asks about your 5-year plan. No one pushes you to reinvent yourself. Instead, Ecuador quietly asks a heavier, simpler question. Ecuador does not ask where you are going next. It asks, are you staying? And if your answer is yes, Ecuador is one of the few places willing to accept you, not through grand promises, but through a level of stability that allows you to keep living without having to run anymore. 1. Philippines, quick to stay strong in human connection. The Philippines closes this list in a very different way, not through perfect stability, not through flawless systems, and not through cold numbers. The Philippines opens its doors quickly with clear long-term residency options, such as the SRRV and other established pathways. There is no pressure to make large investments, no obligation to buy property, and maintaining long-term residency is relatively easy. On paper, the system is flexible. But what keeps people here is rarely written on paper. What the Philippines truly sells is not its system. The system can be slow, loose, and far from perfect. What it sells is its people. The way someone looks at you when you walk into a small local eatery. The way neighbors learn your name before you remember theirs. The way someone checks on you if you haven't been around for a few days. In the Philippines, your presence is acknowledged not because of documents, but because you exist in other people's daily lives. Life here revolves around open communities. Relationships form quickly without ceremony, without demanding immediate perfection from you. Society is friendly in a very human way, not through service, but through care. For many older foreigners, this becomes the decisive difference. You are not left alone as you age. Not because the state guarantees everything, but because people around you still notice you. A shared meal, a short daily conversation. Small things, but enough to keep days from feeling empty. The trade-offs are equally real. Infrastructure is imperfect. Transportation utilities, bureaucracy, all require adaptation. Things do not always run on time by the book or to the standards you may be used to. In the Philippines, you cannot fight the system with frustration. You can only live alongside it with patience. Those who need absolute order often leave early. Those who accept flexibility tend to stay far longer than they expected. The Philippines does not give you permanent residency because you have money. It does not hold you through rigid rules. It allows you to stay because you are willing to live with others, to share space, share rhythm, and accept that here, people not systems, sit at the center of everyday life. And for those searching not just for legal status, but for a place where life still carries emotional connection, the Philippines often becomes the answer they never expected. When these 5 countries are placed side by side, one thing becomes clear. No two are the same. Paraguay chooses silence, a space quiet enough for you to hear yourself again. Georgia offers freedom, wide, flexible, but unwilling to hold you. Albania leaves space. Europe still open, but requiring you to build on your own. Ecuador brings stability. A life with rhythm easy to accept without the need to keep running. And the Philippines creates connection, a place where people matter more than systems, where you do not disappear as you grow older. And when you step back, the most important question is no longer which country is best. Because there is no best country. There is only the country that fits the person you are becoming. Not the person you used to be. Not the person society expected. But the person you will live with in the years ahead. Each morning, you wake up, each night, you close out a day. In the second half of life, some people need freedom just to breathe. Some need stability, so they no longer have to worry. And some need something far simpler, a sense of belonging. Not judgment, not pressure, just a place where they are allowed to be. So, if you had to choose, what do you need most in the second half of life? Freedom, stability, or a sense of belonging? Leave your choice in the comments. Sometimes naming what you need is the first step toward truly finding it.